Welcome everyone. Franco here from Frank Analysis. I'm joined here with my friend D. Pierce SSC. We've done several videos together in the past, but I picked up some new subscribers since the last time he's been here. So I would like to have him introduce himself to you guys. Pierce, it's great to have you on again, my friend. How are you doing? And would you let the audience know like who you are and like what do you do in this political community that we have on YouTube?
Yeah, Franco, I want to say congrats on hitting 2K subs. You're only going to get to 3K, 4K. You know, we're going to keep it rolling. And happy for you, brother.
Thank you.
And who I am a soldier in the military. I do not speak for the military, though. And yeah, I studied economics in my bachelor's, and for my master's, I studied politics. I've always been interested in large systems that involve people, such as economics, politics, you know, societal questions, philosophy. Like, I like to think like I'm just like a guy that tries to learn as much as I can. I like seeing what the world actually is, even if it's like a harder read for some people. I just don't want to be like duped, you know. I want to like try to see the world for exactly how it is. And you know, shows like yours, talking with our colleagues like Dak and Christy, I think we all kind of, you know, have a lot to offer when it comes to, you know, looking at, you know, this crazy American Western kind of world, and
which has so much influence on the world.
Yeah.
And so you're a leftist, right? And you're independent. You don't agree with the two-party system that we have, which is really a one-party system. And you were Yang Gang, right? So I just want to make sure I get that right for everybody out there.
Yeah, my channel started out as kind of like a pro Andrew Yang channel. I think there were a lot of interesting things about Andrew Yang. But yeah, I would say these days, especially after the 2020 primary and general election, I'm very negative on the prospect of what can be gained from electoral politics in America. And yeah, I'm very much against the two-party system, very much. And yeah, I think we need to start thinking about democracy in a way that we have to separate from this label the conditioning that we've all had to thinking that democracy is like an end state, like it's such a positive thing, and we just need to really start seeing what it's bringing into the world. This thing you call democracy, it's more complicated than what your social conditioning towards it has led you to believe about it. Our espoused ideas, our espoused beliefs, the sacredness of our founders and the Constitution. I'm these days very skeptical, and again, I don't speak for anybody except for myself. I'm just trying to get closer to truth and trying to see, you know, what lies ahead, right?
So I really like the recent videos you've been putting out. It seems like you've been dipping your toes into environmentalism and philosophy and how that ties into like human psychology. So what led to this curiosity?
Would you believe me if I said it was a girl? But no, like seriously, I met very recently, I don't want to talk about her too much, but somebody that's very into that like kind of green space, let's just say, and she's definitely influenced a lot of my views in like the last quarter of this year. We met like, you know, at the end of the summer, very briefly, and then I left the States, but I still like, I talk to her like pretty much every day. Somebody that I think is like smarter than I am. And yeah, like I, not just the girl though, but it's an interesting space. Like when you get into the thing is like it's scary sometimes to think that when it comes to like the environment and nature, that it's like a boring topic for people in 2020 and moving forward. Like their eyes glaze over because there's like this such disrespect that's like you know, kind of attached to thinking about nature. But humans are closer to nature than we are to, you know, our cell phones and the advancing, you know, technological progress that we sometimes conflate as human progress. Like technology can be advancing, industry can be advancing, but we may be losing some of our humanity. And I'm not saying like 100% sure we're losing our humanity by the march of those two moving forward, but I think that we disrespect nature in modern society, not just in the West, but we don't think enough about how it could play a role in us humanizing ourselves again if we're losing some of our humanity because of industry and society and technology, as Ted Kaczynski kind of talks about in his manuscript. So there's a lot here, not just Ted Kaczynski stuff, but also from the anarcho-primitivist community, from the environmental community as a whole, and yeah, just thinking about things that like Andrew Yang made people think about in his campaign, like suicides going up, freaking depression, anxiety rates, kids attempting suicide more because they're getting themselves all anxious on social media. There's so much happening in modern society that I think that we really need to like step back and try to take like a eagle perspective on how it's affecting us, you know?
Yeah, and we don't think about or appreciate how the society as we know it right now with all this technology has existed for like a blink in humans' existence. The internet is only like a generation old. Like it just became what it was during our lifetime, and you and I are like millennials who haven't. I don't know if you've hit 30 yet. I haven't hit 30 yet, but it's been like everything. The way that we see it is not that old. Humanity has relied on nature for a lot of stuff. A lot of the architecture that we see is what we take from nature. We are part of the environment, and we need to understand it. But like you said, the direction we're heading in, this corporatist capitalist society in which we're approached to as consumers, shortens our attention span and don't allow us to have like the time to really appreciate nature, and that can like that takes away from our appreciation of how much we are and how connected we are to nature. So you said you read Ted Kaczynski's book. I want to make sure I'm saying his name right. Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, you can just call him Ted K. Call him the Unabomber. And before we start,
right.
You know, killed 3 people, injured 25.
Disclaimer.
But take a look at Barack Obama. So let's just like remove that label, demonizing him for who he is. Reprehensible stuff he has done indeed, but not as reprehensible as like Samantha Power or Hillary Clinton or the like. So yeah, right. There's knowledge to be had everywhere, right?
Yeah, and it's important to understand the extremes that people like Ted K reach. Like, it's important to understand why they reached that level, and like you can learn from their work. Take the bad, take the good. Just the point is to understand. You don't have to endorse what their main ideology is. And so, just a disclaimer here: me and Pierce are not experts here on what he was proposing, Anarcho-Primitivism, but we just want to explore the topic a little bit, discuss what we know about it so far. We would love to hear your comments from the audience and see what you guys, if there's anyone out there that knows more about this. But Pierce, I just want to hear from you. Like, what was your impression on Ted K's book that you read?
Real quick before I say my impressions, yeah, I think that here in Frank Analysis is a good place to talk about this, because I know that you've been trying to talk more about environmental stuff. I like what you said before about kind of grounding our perspective on this topic on the fact that humans, you've all know Harari talks about this. We've for a long time been a particular kind of species, and we are what we have been for a longer amount of time, as opposed to what we have recently become. This industrial technological society has only been a blink in time. I might be butchering the numbers a little bit, but 6 million years we split with our last ancestor with the orangutan, but the Industrial Revolution was only about 200, 300 years ago. The Scientific Revolution was only about 500 years ago. We domesticated dogs like 20,000
10,000 or something like that, 10,000 years ago.
I think dogs was like 20 to 30,000, and what is mostly known as like agrarian, kind of sedentary, like farming, agriculture, all this stuff, that's only been 10,000. So I think the 10,000 is us kind of. Anyways, so yeah, like, millions of years, and that kind of level of conditioning, you don't just break that overnight, and that's where you can get into some of the asynchronous feelings that modern man feels in society. Like, you can't just wash away all of that time that we haven't spent in times as modern as the one as the ones that we currently inhabit. But yeah, my impressions on Ted K and industrial society and its future. It's a 40-page manuscript. If anyone's lucky enough to read it, like with like physical copy, you can find the PDFs for free online. But I don't like reading online. But there are people that have audiobooked it, and I find audiobooking more helpful to me than reading a PDF. But my impressions of it was going. The reason why I got to Ted K's manuscript was I was thinking about AI and consciousness, and I was bouncing those ideas off of this girl that I previously mentioned. And she just found the idea very reprehensible that humans would seek some kind of singularity with machine, with the internet. And she just found it really cold. And so then I was like, that's a good critique. Let me go look at kind of more environmentally oriented critiques of just like the ongoing rush, the progress of technological society and of industrial society, and the anarcho-primitivists. I don't know if Ted K would have considered himself among them. They offer thoughtful critiques on, indeed, how modern society and industry, it's like, it's just maybe hurting us more than actually offering us benefits. And I got to his manuscript, and I didn't know it was the Unabomber. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, Ted Kaczynski, who's that? And I Google his name, and I find out he's the Unabomber. So like, I kind of reached his manuscript. I didn't, seek it. So I just thought it was funny how I ended up reading his stuff. And my impressions, I think the book offers a lot of interesting stuff. On leftism, less interesting stuff. I tend to ignore those parts of those critiques that Ted K has on leftism. Some of it, I can kind of see what he's trying to say, but yeah. What did you think? What did you think, Franco?
So was this main argument that, so by the way, full disclaimer, people, I listened to this literally yesterday, the audiobook. It's like 2.5 hours. So I haven't fully absorbed everything yet, but I just want to clarify, like, what's his main argument that with technology, you are going further and further away from freedom? Like there's a lot of potential from that. Was that his main argument, that we need to get away from too much technology? Was that really his main argument?
Yeah, I think that's right. That is definitely something that he says in the manuscript. He says that technology advancing is it's against freedom, because technology is a more powerful socializing force for human beings than our wanting of freedom is. He compares us to an alcoholic with a barrel of wine. Like, oh, just a little wine, they even say that some wine is good. Maybe I'll just have a little bit of a sip of wine, but then, you as a human being, you're an alcoholic to the wine that is technology. So that's certainly an interesting argument that he makes. He says that technology is a more powerful socializing force than our will or want of freedom is. And you can certainly see how industry and corporations can use that socializing force that is technology to advance their agenda while simultaneously undercutting all of our freedom. So I think that's a fair point to bring up if you wanted to say what is Ted Kaczynski's main point. I don't think that you're far away from what he's mostly saying.
Yeah. Well, technology is a byproduct of human nature, and it's just like humans, we are not the only ones that use technology. Like there's ants that use tools. There's octopuses or octopi. There's chimpanzees, like our close relatives, they use tools. It's just that human consciousness was able to evolve at such a high level that we've been able to create such magnificent pieces of work in order to excel humanity. The problem lies with how it's used, and it's our responsibility. We have to use it to not only like benefit our lives and make things easier, and discover truths about our world, but also to protect nature, because by protecting nature, you're also protecting yourself. I mean, no matter how much you try to distance yourself away from nature, you're still in it. Like you still breathe air, you still need food. Food comes from nature. So yeah, like with technology, that is freedom. Like you are you are discovering things about the universe that helps you understand it better. That's how we've been able to understand the way our bodies work, how we can use things from nature in order to in order to improve medicinal practices. The problem comes with corruption, though. Trying to, like, when we have this for-profit system in which we try to when our priorities become profit over actually helping people. Like, I'm just using this example here. And same thing with like the fossil fuel industry, with the arms industry, like when we try to use that like for selfish purposes. So right now, the problem I see it is human consciousness needs to catch up to the level of technology that we have. And I think we can use technology in order to accomplish that. Because with technology, for example, the internet, we improve communication. We can transfer information from one another. We can raise consciousness that way and see like, okay, this is not beneficial. Why is this happening? Why do we have so much wars? Let's discuss this in a Skype interview and publish it on YouTube so that other people can understand. Let's provide evidence. How can we know that this evidence is legitimate? We can explain that to people. So what are your thoughts on that, Pierce? Like, we can use technology to benefit humanity, but also we have to allow or help humanity catch up in their consciousness to the level of technology that we have. What do you think?
And yeah, again, I just want to remind our audience that just because technology is advancing and industry is advancing, that doesn't necessarily mean that humanity is advancing. I mean, we could be working ourselves into whether it's China or the US that wins the race for global domination. I mean, both countries at the current rate that we're heading into like a kind of neo-feudal situation where our will as individuals and our freedom is subsumed to the needs and wants of industry, of economics. And like you mentioned previously, like you can use technology to assure that more people rather than less have clean water and clean air to breathe. But right now, that's not the trend that we're trending towards. And we also have to think about the fact that as technology advances, it causes new problems and it doesn't solve some of the old problems. A good example of this is social media, for example. And while I think that there have been major advances, such as like plumbing, the Romans made advances in plumbing and in transporting water and in sanitation as well. So when you see, I wouldn't say more primitive, but less modern societies such as Rome be able to have technology to improve their sanitation and how we're doing that too, I think it's certainly feasible that humans can keep some good parts of technology. I don't want to have people listening to the arguments of anarcho-primitivists and just think that they want to live all outside of buildings, everyone go back to living in forests. I do think that it is theoretically possible that you could find some kind of harmonious situation where, and it's not just the tools, right? Because the tools create different kinds of classes of people. With the advance of surveillance technology and with the ongoing advance of technologies that are used for war, for example, where you have the state have greater and greater monopoly on violence and just, you have a state that can become more powerful, that can survey you more powerfully and more effectively stomp out protests and riots. So I think you also have to kind of see the kind of class of people that industry and technology are making. And I know that I'm rambling a little bit right now, but indeed, when I look at corporatists, at warmongers, at these politicians that elevate themselves above wider society, even through crises such as the 2007-2008 financial crisis and COVID, you can see how there is progress being made with industry, with corporatism, with technology, but it's like more of us on the planet are losing. And again, this isn't just a Western phenomenon. I mean, I like the idea that China isn't an imperial power, nor really has been in the past, and the U.S. is still that. But it's like what I would want the U.S. to learn from China is to not be an imperial power, but if the U.S. learned that lesson and then we had to move forward, we would still have to deal with how both countries are currently thinking about themselves more as economic projects that need to outcompete each other with constant, ongoing, like just unlimited production and consumption, and like, you know, humans consuming resources at these fast rates. And what do we get for it? We get, you know, incrementally better iPhones every single year. It's like that. It's just like a very, to me, it seems like a very lowly experience for humans to, you know, strive for. Like, oh, what am I striving for? Incremental improvements on culture that we already have, on technologies that we're already using. As our water and air quality degrades, and as we treat each other less like humans, you're atomized more and more away from your communities. Because, I mean, that's the only way that technology and industrial society works. I mean, we all have to kind of internalize the logic of markets and the economy, and make it so that everyone's just completely fine with, you know, once they're of near adult age, going to a university away from your community, then working in another state where your family isn't in, and where your friends aren't in, and we're all just like, I don't know, supposed to play like moving cogs that are fine with, you know, our logistical inconveniences, just because, you know, technology is advancing, industry is advancing. So I know there's a lot there. I know that I was kind of rambling, but hopefully our audience can kind of see the through line of what I'm trying to draw out there. Ted Kaczynski, in his book, he's also talking about the socializing force that technology and industry plays. So yeah, it's not just the tools themselves that need eschewing. I mean, some of it is bringing more negative consequences than positive benefits. But it's also like, you have to think about technology and industry and see how humans are treating each other with the ongoing advance from the local level all the way up until the national level to the geopolitical level, right?
Right. Yeah, and I just want to make sure we're not creating like a caricature here of an anarcho-primitivist. Like, what is their end goal? Like, are they trying to become, like, go back to like when we were hunters and gatherers? Like, what is their end goal?
I'm still a little bit too early on the subject, and I've only read Ted K's manuscript, and I've dove into Civilized to Death by, I'm forgetting the name of the author right now, but he was on Jimmy Dore. He had a pretty good interview. Another good interview along these lines is Joe Rogan interviewing, he wrote a book called Tribe. So yeah, the book Tribe and the book Civilized to Death. I don't know what the end goal would be for anarcho-primitivists. Again, this is a topic that I just recently dipped my toes into, coming from kind of topics of consciousness and AI. But I guess it's some of the stuff that we talked about before, where there is a theoretical kind of harmonious situation that we can find with good technologies, such as, I mean, like sanitation and plumbing technology, which I don't think like anyone would really argue against. And it's not like all or nothing. I think that something like incremental improvements in tech, and just having like just constantly producing phones, like I think this is, with the amount of e-trash that is created with our incremental improvements to some of our consumer technologies, we have to. I would say like anarcho-primitivists would probably agree that this industry, like just constantly selling products that aren't even as good, like they're just like slight improvements on last year's model. I would probably say that, you know, humans could deal without that. And yeah, this is all theoretical. I don't know if humans would ever decide to do this stuff. But you certainly have to see how modern techno industry, it's certainly drawing resources from the planet that could be conserved, or we could just be spending time doing other things that aren't in front of screens. So this is a segue into, I guess, me trying to bring up what Ted Kaczynski brings up in his book called The Power Process, that humans feel that they have to go through, or else they won't feel like they're living worthwhile lives. Anarcho-primitivists would probably be suggesting moving more towards a realm of life, like humans moving more towards a realm of life where we aren't just economic inputs, but we're building our connection to nature. And yeah, that doesn't mean live in the trees, like don't use any technology. But I think that it's certainly arguable that with anxiety and depression and suicide going up, and there being things that I just think are just straight up not that useful or bring more consequences than positives, such as social media, where we have to think about a way of life that can most best optimize for how we have lived in the past. And yeah, it's a tough question to try to sort out, just like me, myself, and you clearly see that this is like tough, just us two trying to sort this out. But yeah, we have to think about how, as humans, we're changing society already. So it's like, what kind of society do you want to live in? One that you are less in sync with, and now you just have better entertainment, or you can just take pills to be fine with that more asynchronous situation? Or would you rather just live more synchronously with nature and be happier and be amongst your communities more often and have cleaner air and have cleaner water? So whatever that solution looks like, right? I can't speak for the anarcho-primitivists as a whole.
Right. Well, I can definitely see that the current system that we have, this capitalist system that we have, it can limit freedom in people by restricting several groups of people from having the same opportunities that a lot of these multinationals that were born into wealth had. So, and a lot of their goal is also to limit critical thinking. I mean, the lobbyists that try to keep our education system the way that it is, so that we don't think critically about our government, allowing only certain corporations like Apple or Amazon to have like a monopoly or on creating certain technologies. Like, human nature is to create, right? And I think we are also an image of the universe. Like, the universe is always creating things, and we are an image of that. So I think anarcho-primitivism probably resulted from the limitations that our system has on people, in limiting creation of things that can, I don't know how to explain where I was getting at. But do you think that it's more so a problem of capitalism and corporatism that led to the ideology of anarcho-primitivism? It's not more so like, oh, we're forbidden from creating things. That's not what it is, right?
Well, I think we talked enough about the environmental side, which I guess can, like, if anarcho-primitivism is a hyphenated word, then the primitivist element of that hyphenated word is referring to nature, and I suppose how we can live more synchronously with it. And I think that what you were trying to say by bringing up an institution such as the public education system, critiques of that system can be closer to the anarcho side of that hyphenated word. And I mean, indeed, like, this isn't to say that schools are are inherently anti-environment, but schools, public schooling as a socialization factor would be something that anarchists would quibble with. So I think that's kind of what you were trying to get at. And what was your question again? Can you remind me your question?
Yeah, is anarcho-primitivism a result of capitalism, or?
I think absolutely. I mean,
like a response to it.
Yeah, just as like how anarchism would be a response to, and this is just aside from environmental questions, I think that, and I don't deign to speak for anarchists, but I would assume that anarchism is a response to seeing how society's going and people just feeling like, governments and large organizations such as corporations, rich people, the groups that they can be part of, such as lobbyists, corporate control of media, these kind of groups of businessmen together trying to change society and make it look a certain way for all of us when there's no opting out for us. It's just they can kind of make those decisions for everyone else. I think that anarchists dislike all systems like that, or most systems like that. And you said something earlier that I thought was interesting. You said that it's a human nature to continue creating. I'd also say that it's human nature not to think about problems and not solve those problems and then move forward constantly trying to create, and how that can lead to more problems. And you can kind of see how we get into a situation where we're just spiraling. And with the Industrial Revolution, our ability to create has only risen exponentially, right? And the way that we've subsumed nature to the whims of technological society, of the economy, it's only grown exponentially. And what I'm getting at with all this is it's also human nature not to solve problems. It's human nature, I guess, for the rich and powerful among us to try to control everyone else. And yeah, there are plenty of disturbing parts of human nature that I think that the majority of us should try to fight against. And in an ideal world where, I'm not saying the anarcho-primitivists are on level playing field with the corporatists and the capitalists, not that that would be a bad thing, but in a perfect world, or a better world, I should say, I think that we are addressing the worst parts of capitalism, of corporatism, of militarism, of environmental degradation, of us subsuming our personal lives, our communities, and our ties to our communities, subsuming all of that to, again, like what I mentioned before, the logic of markets, the logic of the economy, the logic of modernity, like this march of progress kind of myth. I wouldn't say it's like 100% a myth. I think there is progress that could be made theoretically, but I think we're being sold a set of lies by saying that we're just getting better and better and better. I've certainly heard, like, some of my conservative friends make that argument, like, oh, human society, like, yeah, you can look at some like things that are bad about our modern times, but we're a species that's only gotten better and better and better. And I question that assumption, because I actually think that we are heading in the wrong track. And you have to remember, if you're driving in the wrong direction for a while, just because you make a U-turn and start driving in the right direction doesn't mean you're back to starting position. I mean, you still have to kind of solve all of those problems, or you have to stop going the wrong way and then go the right way for the same amount of time that you're going in the wrong way. Again, if we've only expanded our ability to create, then once we start addressing the problems of corporatism and capitalism in this better world, I mean, we have to do it for a long time. I mean, we've been, I would say, fucking up in a sense as a species for quite a long time. And these are hard questions to gauge. And, some people might even feel a sense of defeatism.
Don't feel defeated.
We're talking theoretics anyways.
With problems like this, with suffering and hardship, that triggers more that causes us to think more creatively about how we're going to overcome obstacles like this. Like I've discussed on this show, I don't know if you've heard of this, Pierce, but the Great Reset, with how Klaus Schwab and several multinationals, billionaires like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, are ramping up for something that's called the Great Reset, in which they're trying to solve all these problems that come with humanity, like climate change, COVID. Like they're trying to solve all of that with more technocracy, with mining in Africa and deep sea mining, so that they can create more like 4K technology and 5G.
You know what I hear? I hear a bunch of public relations. Like that all sounds like advertising, marketing fucking talk.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. It's so they can benefit, but not us.
Does anyone, like, how, if human beings are flawed, I don't see why just being incredibly rich and powerful would fix all these flaws and make you perfect. Like, these people that idolize, and I own Tesla stock, I will say this straight up, these people that, like, fucking idolize Elon Musk and, like, the head of Amazon, the head of Microsoft, like, these people are flawed human beings, and we're trying to make them more powerful. Like, I mean, I'm all fine with, like, anyways, I'm sorry to have cut you off.
So good.
I just think it's so funny what you're mentioning right now, Franco.
Yeah, and so that can lead to more. What that will lead to is more exploitation of resources. Like, why do you think they're going to mine for more resources, like in the deep sea? And like, it's because we don't have enough money. I mean, we don't have enough resources like on the earth that's not like below the sea to sustain what they're ramping up for with this mass surveillance and which they're going to use 5G technology for. Like, they're going to need to use all these minerals that we just don't have enough of. And so I'm sure you know that imperialism is tied to capitalism. So expect more of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a video on my own on like this concept of the Great Reset, because that's a funny concept. I think I've heard about it before, but it's good getting a reminder from you, Franco. And yeah, man, again, we're flawed, and that's not to say that humans cannot be good, but it's just the older I get, the more I'm skeptical of really just in general. I know it sounds cliche, but fucking rich people, fucking corporations. Like, when you put us flawed human beings in a position where we have so much control over society, of other human beings, of the environment, of how mass resources are going to be used to create products. I mean, you have to think about the logic that is, trying to be espoused in the movie, in the documentary Planet of the Humans.
Yeah.
We have a set of problems that has come about because of industry and because of the march of technology and the march of consumerism and capitalism and corporatism and corporations' controls over all forms of governments all around the world. And expecting these same corporations to be the ones to usher in the promised land for the rest of us is just so unrealistic. I mean, it's like people that expect the Democrats or the Republicans to change for the better, whatever side that you're on. Like, you're expecting a like cancer patient. I love the metaphor that our colleague Dak Rouleau uses very often. Like, expecting these sudden changes, it's like you have somebody that's had cancer for years and they're clearly, suffering and just degrading. You expect a miraculous recovery and for them to become a bodybuilder overnight. It's kind of a thing that you're expecting. So yeah, I mean, I think that any solution, and again, I don't want to speak for anarchists, nor the environmental movement, nor for anarcho-primitivists, but I think any solution, it does have to address corporatism, capitalism, really just kind of wealth. Like, I mean, people think that it's unsavory to talk about wealth caps, but indeed, I think that there's this myth that, and the movie Network from 1974 or 76 does this very well. I hope I'm not spoiling Network for anybody, but near the end of Network, you have Mr. Moneybags, the representation of a rich, powerful, transnational corporate businessman, saying there are no nations, there are only corporations. And I think that that's the point that human beings find themselves in. So I'm not trying to shit on any particular nation, because I do that plenty enough on other videos, but human beings, we all have to think about the state that we find ourselves in, where we have these powerful transnational corporate entities and these figureheads that are lionized by the asleep among us, those of us trapped in the matrix that, whether you're for one party or the other, you're trapped in the matrix. It's like you have these corporate forces, these people that are idolized and lionized, and those among us that are asleep, that believe in this myth of progress as it's painted by the Great Reset logic, which you bring up, Franco.
Yeah, and then they try to make us think that we are the problem. Like, they're like, oh, it's overpopulation. Oh, look, it's your carbon footprint. You're using too much. And not ignoring the fact that it's these corporations and it's these multi-millionaires that are using up way more resources than we are.
And it's funny, you bring up overpopulation. I think that's certainly something.
It is, but it's not the only. It's not like the main. It's not the problem. Like, the problem is overconsumption of resources used by a few people.
The thing that I wanted to bring up is when you talk about overpopulation, it's like like the logic there seems to be what we're doing. It's fine. It's just that there's too many of us doing it. Whereas I think that what we are doing is not fine, and just because you have less of us doing it doesn't make it sustainable. Mm-hmm. Like, do I think that contraception and family planning all around the planet would be great. Yeah, sure. I want everyone to have clean water. I want everyone to have sanitation, plumbing, clean air to breathe. And yeah, it's like that logic that talks about overpopulation as the problem. It doesn't address the underlying factor that what we're doing is what is wrong. And the last thing that I want to say, if I haven't forgotten, yeah, that's this logic of overpopulation. It's kind of like reminding me of like when the government or corporations tell you that you need to recycle, that you need to eat less meat, and it's like motherfuckers, like the priorities of business, of corporations, and of large governments, and how they just deign to allocate resources for mass production and consumption. That's the problem. I mean, if you want a world where people eat less meat, I mean, obviously we have to solve like food problems as well. The issue of malnourishment around the world is a issue of logistics and it not being profitable for these large corporations. Like, anyways, that's a digression. But yeah, what I'm basically trying to say is, it's like instead of corporations, which shape our world more than the individual and our collective decisions, you make it an individual priority to recycle, to eat less meat. You need to be the one with your volunteering that makes your communities better. But actually, the larger socializing force when it comes to human beings are these corporations. They are these rich people. So if you want a world where there's less pollution and a world where we're not treating cows and chickens so terribly, that is something that governments and corporations, like, you set the playing field for solving that problem. Human beings with our individual market decisions, as we are hyper propagandized towards, like, we're never going to be able to solve that problem.
Yeah, and the last thing I'm gonna let the audience know is, don't expect the people who created this problem, these multinationals, these corporatists, to be the ones that solve this problem. They're not in it for that. All right,
yeah.
But Pierce,
if I could jump on that last word, indeed, I think that propaganda and media and just the messaging, like the advertising, the marketing, the public relations around all these societal forces that we are all under, it's like the thing that umbrellas everything. You're constantly being sold this version of progress, and if you and I, just us two, Franco, aren't going to solve like the theoretical problem and have all the solutions here, I would at least question the audience to think about it in their terms. Like, try to separate yourself from the propaganda, the public relations, the marketing, the advertising speak of what is considered progress by those figures that you point out that are the ones that brought us these problems, and try to see for yourself, what do you think would just be a better world? Like, think of the stuff in your mind that makes sense. Clean air, clean water, freaking being in touch with your communities, being in touch with nature. These are things that most people find beautiful. And increasingly we get a society that's just more cold, it's more metal. There's more buying and selling involved, and just consuming resources and not caring enough about each other and nature. And hopefully this topic didn't bore people, but once you get into like the space where you're thinking a little bit more about the environment and nature, you realize how integral it is to our existence.
Nature is fun. Like, go out for a hike and then you just appreciate everything that you see. Like, be mindful while you're out. Look at all the details that are out there, how everything works together. Like all these pieces, all these species, how interconnected they are and how connected they are to you. Like, you're breathing the same air that they're breathing, and you're eating the same food that comes from the same place.
Go to the beach, go hiking, go with your local communities when they do like kind of forest cleanups, fucking beach cleanups. There are plenty of, and that stuff's going to get you more in touch with your community as well. So, I mean, there are plenty of people that meet through hiking, through surfing, through, I don't fucking know, like playing sports outside. And I just want a world that looks more like that, as opposed to one that I think we're going towards. Yeah,
and it's good for your mental health. Pierce, I greatly enjoyed this conversation, man. I think we need to have more conversations like this. I'm looking forward to talking more to you about this stuff. I recommend checking out more about the Great Reset stuff. Check out some of the articles by Whitney Webb, and then we can probably get together and follow up on this conversation. Is there anything else you want to say before we close off?
Yeah, I want to tell people to like and subscribe to this channel. We're going to get Franco to 3,000. And yeah, man, I'm just wishing the best for you. I look at the quality of vids you put out, and I know that you're doing stuff with Nico House, with myself, with Dak Rouleau, with Chrissy Doff. I wish all of my friends, my fellow creators, the best. And yeah, we were talking offline about it, but the AOC Jimmy Dore stuff, I think that it's created a kind of split, a kind of rift. And I hope that people are paying attention to the agitators more than the people that just want you to be comfortable. You know, Franco, I see you in that vein. You're more of an agitator than somebody that just wants to, like, oh, I want to do independent media. I just want to be the one to be the leftist that reports the news. Like, I know that it isn't about that for you. I know that you're not just trying to fucking have your channel and be the one to report the news, because, like, there are plenty of people that are already doing that. You're trying to, like, offer stuff to your audience that is new, and that's maybe exposing some of the people that, you know, at a first-hand look you think they might be on your side, but, you know, they're actually not offering anything. They just want to be the elites, you know, the credentialed people that are in the independent left space. And I just find that stuff very detestable. But I like that you're actually trying to offer your audience, like, kind of new stuff, and I look forward to doing that with you, man. It's been far too long since the last time that we spoke.
Yeah, it's been a long time. All right, D. Pierce, definitely subscribe to D. Pierce. He's one of the most philosophical people you will find on YouTube, along with Dak Rouleau, along with Marcus Cage. I would say they're the top 3 most philosophical people out there. So definitely subscribe to his channel, like, share, and subscribe to this channel as well, and stay informed.